I want to clarify something before going forward, because the first piece of confusion, I think, is about the relationship between infrared and ACP and Midwestern Marx and ACP and the dive and ACP and yada, yada, yada. So let me explain to you how it works. Although I am executive chairman of the American Communist Party, and although that brings with it a great deal of responsibility and accountability, no matter where I am and no matter what the context is, this is not an official Marxist brain mush. What's going on? This is not an official line of party communication. I'm going to update you about what's going on. I'm going to give you the information that I'm authorized to. Thank you and sign. But this is still infrared. Infrared is still going to have editorial independence. So will Midwestern Marx. So will the dive. These are not things that are going to be controlled by the party. It's just we all have to obviously... Captain Ronrico, what's going on? It's just that we all obviously have to use our own discretion as far as what messaging we're putting out there, because we know technically, optically, it's going to, especially me, it's going to reflect on the party. So to be clear, and I know for a fact that even though I say this, there's a lot of people who are still not going to get it, because they're just not very smart. Let's just be honest, they're just not very smart. So to be clear, infrared is not the same thing as ACP. Obviously, infrared is not going against ACP or vice versa. But they're not, infrared is not controlled by the party. Neither is Midwestern Marx, neither is the dive. But being people on the executive board of the party, and more about the party structure in a moment, we are obviously using our discretion to benefit the party and be committed to the party. The party is the utmost extent of our loyalty, okay? The real party. So that's what I wanted to preface and clarify before anything going forward. But as executive chairman of the American Communist Party, obviously the information I'm giving you now is 100% accurate and is coming from inside, okay? To be clear. Now, firstly, this is a long story. I mean, you're going to have to sit down, have some popcorn, strap in, because you're in for a long story, okay? Now, thankfully, I could rely on the short memory of the internet when it comes to the plans that I announce. But if you remember in early 2023, there's something I talked about called Operation Magma, okay? Operation Magma is something I discussed. And since then, the work on building the infrastructure for a new organization has been underway. And when I say, and with that comes an extremely measured and careful analysis and understanding of how organizations work right now, what organization even means in the information age, in the era in which we live, and a lot of thinking, a lot of work, especially the work part, went into this. Toward that end, I will not be able to exhaust the full list of people who contributed to making this happen. But, so please don't get offended if I leave you out. But Darg, Toplop, Panther, helped with the logo. I mean, so many others, Talonsight. So many people made all I had was the vision. It was actually our most excellent and skilled members of the community who made this happen. They had the background knowledge to be able to implement it, and I could basically talk about my vision with them, and they could tell me what's realistic and what's possible, and we could go from there. And that is how the idea of what ACP is, that's where it came from. This was actually something built by the mighty hand of the community. And the reason you guys were not informed about it and you didn't know about it is because we had to protect ourselves from wreckers, which I think has been totally vindicated, because 2 days after the party is announced, before we have literally done anything, we have not done anything yet, okay? We didn't even have our in-person inauguration yet. All we did was announce it. And right off the bat, we have dedicated full-time wreckers, we have fake accounts attempting to impersonate us, and we have nonsense rumors and lies being stated about us. We knew that was going to happen a year ago, which is why we couldn't share publicly what we were doing in the background. We couldn't do it because we know, I mean, look, I was not one of those people who simply believed communism was the truth, okay? It's just the truth. It sounds naive. It sounds like you're an ideological fanatic or something. It just sounds so biased, right? In the past, I mean, like long in the past. I always had this refined, like, critical view, this sophisticated, intellectual view of Marxism. Long in the past, but the experience of doing this fully vindicated to me that literally communism is just the truth, because I've witnessed firsthand to what extent and to what lengths the actual state on social media itself, because people have this idea that they're not up to date as far as gaming social media and spreading lies and slander on social media, but they are. They're very sophisticated at it. And if you knew to what extent they go to slander you, you just have to ask, how are they not also doing this to communist states full time that we're actual states? We're not a state. We're only a party after a few days ago, okay? And yet look at the lengths they go to just lie. And we were always used to the lies, okay? I don't want to... Wow! Prashad with the 100. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you so much, brother. But anyway, I'm not here to go on a tangent about people lying or whatever. That's nothing new. It's nothing new. I'm just trying to tell you that we anticipated it. That's why we couldn't share it publicly, because we knew they would just try to slander us right away and destroy it. We know they're going to try to kill it in its cradle, which is what they're doing now. And I'll talk about that in a second, and our responses to that and how we're going to maneuver that. But they would have tried to kill it before it took off. And that's why we had to keep it secret. Only the people that actually had the ability to contribute technically, on the technical level, to the creation of the party, and only the people, such as my friends and colleagues and comrades now at Midwestern Marx, who would participate in actually leading the party itself, only these people could be filled in on what's going on. So we have announced it to everyone now, and we specifically have in mind already committed and educated communists. Not necessarily, although we are communicating with the general public, the people that we are reaching out to are already the ones looking for this, okay? And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But before I talk about... So it's going to be a lot, okay? I didn't even write a list, so it's all off the top of my... There's a lot we have to cover, okay? The first thing we're going to talk about is the nasty business, I guess. Summit of how we're going to proceed dealing with defamation campaigns, okay? So in the past, I was personally, Jackson was personally, Midwestern Marx was personally, Peter, Justin, what's going on? We were all victims of defamation campaigns on a personal level. There's not much we could do. There wasn't much we could do toward that end, okay? But when it comes to protecting the honor and integrity of the party, we have a legal department and a number of actual licensed attorneys, okay, who are on board with us. So it's an actual legal department. And we have every intention, regardless of the cost, we have every intention of pursuing legal action against those who spread defamation and lies against our party. And the first example of that was a lie that was going around claiming that the party was a crypto scheme, that we used cryptocurrency. Now, this is on our website. Jackson has released a statement on it. I've already released a statement on it in the Discord. To be clear, there are no plans for any kind of coin. We don't have a cryptocurrency. And the blockchain technology that we actually do employ is not going to be used in any capacity to be directly monetized. Okay, it's not something that's monetized. I'll explain to you how it works in a moment, but there's no cryptocurrency. And we have already sent cease and desist letters to people. Let me explain to you the links that we don't know who's doing it. I've been told that it was an AI website that just creates coins off of trending AI curated trending topics on Twitter. But some random person on some random website made a meme coin or whatever using our name and made a fake Telegram and claimed it was us and a number of individuals for whatever reason. And that's the beautiful thing. We don't have to care what their motivations are. We just have to care about how we're going to respond to it. So whatever reason, maybe you have a grudge against us personally, maybe you are an FBI agent, maybe you're part of the CIA, maybe you're a DNC operative, maybe you're a Peter Thiel operative, we don't care. We are going to defend our rights. Just in as much as we are a law-abiding party who has to follow the law, we are also entitled to rights protected under the Constitution. So we will protect our rights. If you defame us with lies, we will pursue legal action. And that's the last time I'm going to say this. In any case, that's the ugly business, I suppose. In any case, let's talk on a more a more pleasant note, maybe, which is what exactly is first of all, on our website, the actual social media accounts associated with ACP, there's only two. There's only two right now. There's the ACP main Twitter account, and there's the ACP YouTube channel. There are no other accounts which can claim to represent ACP. Anywhere on the internet, anywhere on social media, there are no accounts that can claim to represent the organization besides those two and obviously the website. So we don't have a Telegram yet. We don't have anything yet. So just assume that if it's not stated on the website, anyone trying to represent us in our capacity as an organization is a Fed. Okay? Just assume they're either misguided, it's well-intentioned, or they're a Fed. Okay? Just assume that. And we built the technology of ACP around the recognition of what the feds have actually done to Infrared and Jackson and so on in the past. What they'll do is they'll make fake accounts. What they'll do is they'll do ridiculous things in real life, claiming it's on behalf of what we believe, when it's clearly not. And then we get blamed for it. And then they slander us and defame us in public and say, this is what the Pat Sox believe, this is what they're doing. And it has nothing to do with us. And we know whoever's doing it is either a troll or a Fed, but we don't care. Because the technology around which ACP is built off of was literally made to prevent things like that. Okay? So this is where the actual blockchain comes in. I'm seeing people raise other concerns, stating, oh, you're using blockchain to track everyone's activity? That's a security breach. I don't know what to tell you besides recommend you to actually start reading for once. I don't know what to tell you besides read our website, because where did we say we're here to track activity? We have a public ledger that's there to track which accounts are officially a part of ACP. So it's a status thing. All the blockchain records is your status. It doesn't record what you're doing. I don't even know how that would be done. It doesn't record all of your activity. It just records whether you are an authorized member or representative of the party, and that's it. And why did we make it a blockchain? Because I'll explain a little bit going forward, because there's way more to it. but we basically wanted a fully transparent and fully almost automated system to just have full accountability as far as who we decide to align or disalign from the party. And all of that is public, and it's on a public chain and a public ledger. So let's say we align a chapter, okay? And the chapter does something that we consider so egregious that it completely betrays everything ACP stands for. Then within our acting capacity, we can disalign them. It's still on the record that at one point they were aligned, but it's also showing we disalign them. Hypothetically, let me show you another scenario. Let's say there's someone who made a Twitter account who's doing ridiculous things in public, claiming it's on behalf of the party. Our blockchain will be very transparently clear about whether at any point they have been a member of the party. So everyone should, the goal is in the coming weeks, and I have to emphasize weeks, in which we're going to onboard and bring on board the actual people who did the work of informal association, as I've been instructing you to do for a year, and bring those people on board, in addition to clubs that have been either dissolved by the CPUSA or dissolved in all but name. We'll talk about that in a second. Those are the people that are going to be incorporated, okay? If you're just a random person, you need to understand that to apply to ACP, you have to apply as a chapter. You can't just apply as an individual. We are not here to just have individuals sitting on their ass so that we can collect dues from them and they could just sit on their ass and do nothing. To be a part of ACP, you already have to be in some kind of association and has demonstrated the minimum that you're capable of socialization. Why? Because we don't want antisocial, psychopathic individuals in our party, for one. We want you to have already been vetted by a group of people, and we want a sense of collective responsibility toward that end. So this is not just for individuals, okay? You need to prove that you can form groups and collectively work out how you want to get things done, and choose a decision-making process that works before you're considered eligible to join as a chapter and simultaneously as the individuals who are part of that chapter, okay? But we already have a lot of people that we're basically going to vet, who we do know, who have been doing on-the-ground work, if you can believe it, for the past year. It's just that the on-the-ground work that they have been doing hasn't been publicized anywhere because it's informal. It's not on behalf of any official organization. But all across the country, there are people, whether they're former clubs of the CPUSA or whether they're people that have just been in an informal association, organizing workers and doing good deeds for their community and talking to people and so on and so on. Those are going to have a priority as far as who we incorporate into the party. So to be clear, this is not a party that's open to everyone. We're not like these other organizations that are based on, dues and recruitment, because recruitment increases the size of dues, the pool of dues that you can get. And we're not. By the way, we haven't even decided fully the financial strategy of the party, so I'm not going to comment that much on it. I can almost guarantee you, I can guarantee you a cryptocurrency is not involved. But anyway, the goal is not just to recruit people in the largest amount of numbers, okay? The goal is actually to yield results. It's a results-oriented party, first and foremost. It's about doing things. It's about getting things done, okay? And how that is measured is through influence. I'm not just talking about online influence either. I'm talking about influence and impact you make on your local communities. That's how we measure our success. We don't measure it in terms of mass recruitment drives. We have plenty of people. We already have hundreds of people who have applied to join already. Hundreds. We don't have a problem of a lack of numbers, okay? And as a matter of fact, no communist party has ever had a problem of a lack of numbers. What they've had a problem with is a lack of vision, a lack of what they actually are seeking to do and accomplish. That's what they have a problem with, okay? So, I'm glad we can get these things out of the way, first and foremost. We have a lot. Definitely have a lot. And by the way, why I couldn't organize this stream is because I've literally been busy all day with official party business stuff. Literally all day, okay? So this is off the top of my head. Now, a lot of people are wondering when are we going to start seeing chapters incorporated such that they're going to appear on the map, okay? And you're going to officially be incorporated. Well, that's going to be as early as this week, okay? We have official roles that are responsible for vetting people. Everyone needs to be vetted, but this week we're going to start incorporating chapters that we already know and that we're already in contact with and that we already have a pretty good idea of. It's going to be an expedited process because we already know them. So if we don't know you and you're just random, you're going to be lower on the list. And it's not your fault. It's just how it works, all right? The vetting process is not going to be too you just trust that we've ironed out all of these details, all right? We've talked about it extensively. It's going to be an efficient process, but it's going to begin tomorrow, okay? Now, here's something that we published officially in response to the so-called CPUSA's letter to Solidnet, claiming that, we're just some, we no clubs have signed, and the proof of that is that their social media accounts have protested it. Now, this is not in the capacity of the party because it's not formalized, but I can tell you, as infrared, we still have people in the CPUSA, high-ranking, national committee and leadership who are there for security and intelligence purposes, let's say, right? And we can tell you that it's stupid to lie like this in public when we literally have the logs of your chat rooms and your group chats of you ordering, these club remnants, and that's really what they are. They're remnants because, to be clear, you guys must be missing this crucial context. Every single independent voice in the CPUSA, especially in the clubs that signed on, but even in the party as a whole, they fall into two categories, all right? Now, one are the kind of people who don't have discipline and just wanted to leave the party because they were outraged by the stances the party was saying. They just wanted to leave rather than actually make a structural difference. So those people just left the party, and we did not. They have nothing to do with this. They just left, okay? But for everyone who remained, it falls into another two categories, okay? Members of the CPUSA who started the petition movement, who were actually earnest and sincere about the petition, and the guerrillas that I instructed to join the petition movement and stay in the party and fight for the petition movement. So the latter category, almost unanimously, nearly unanimously, okay, formed the skeletal structure of ACP. In terms of the rank and file, in terms of the infrastructure. And these are not just my viewers. These are people with real, on-the-ground, practical experience working in the CPUSA. They form the bulk of the ACP, okay? And to clarify something, the club signatories were acting in their capacity as the independent voices of those clubs. Obviously, we're not claiming that people aligned with the leadership are joining us. If that was our view, we would have said the entirety of the so-called CPUSA signed on our declaration. That's ridiculous, okay? But when there's when there's just an orchestrated response from the top down that has nothing to do with the actual experience and on-the-ground work that club members have been doing, their actual views, their actual understanding of the events, That's not the clubs. The club social media accounts that are making tweets, that's not the clubs. That's just the leadership. It's not the clubs. The clubs themselves have signed on to ACP. Because think about it. Acting within their independent capacity as the clubs, they first of all, the petition movement was deeply suppressed throughout the party. And some of these club leaders that were appointed directly by the leadership made it so you couldn't even discuss it. So we're talking about, I can't even count the number. We're talking about so many people who get expelled people who have, put it this way, they've been in these clubs for years. Okay? And in a collective capacity, they're signing these petitions and trying to convince their leadership to get on board with the petition, and they all just get expelled. Or they all just get silenced and threatened with expulsion. So those are the legitimate representatives of the clubs. The actual people working as clubs. Not people who are just directly repeating ad verbatim what the so-called leadership wants them to say. Literally word for word. In the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, do you think there weren't any loyalists in the colonies? You think when there were representatives of the colonies at that convention that declared the independence of the United States, that those people had the consent of literally every loyalist in the colonies? No, it was a hard struggle. They represented their colonies in their capacity as the independent voices who aspire to independence. So the same thing is here. The independent voices who recognize the need for the CPUSA to be reconstituted because they're either getting expelled, their entire clubs dissolved, by the way. Yukon Stores, I believe is the name, is a huge example of that. Or they're being intimidated and silenced, okay? Those are actually the people who can't operate in the party anymore just to fulfill democratic centralism and what the Constitution permits them and allows them, okay? So, let's be absolutely clear about this. Let's be absolutely clear about this. This is, and you know what? It's so ridiculous because there's these other people trying to take credit for the petition movement. I don't even know what to say to them. There is no one who has worked more closely with the petition movement than Infrared and Midwestern Marx in particular. The originator of the petition movement, the very original, the first person to sign that petition is ACP. All of the overwhelming majority are ACP. Okay? There's some other micro sects that caught wind of it. They're a tiny, tiny minority. And they all just left the party completely without wanting to reconstitute it into any. They just left. Okay? So, to be clear, the petition movement, that was something organized by people who believe in ACP now. Okay? And we have all of the receipts, we have all of the proof, and we have all of the documentation to prove as much, okay? It's extensively documented. And we will be revealing that in due time. Okay, and now, let's is there anything else I feel the need to address? Vijay Prashad made a ridiculous tweet, which I found amusing. It was so ridiculous, I found it amusing, okay? This person, his whole job and his whole career has been about writing and reading books and publishing books. If I stand corrected if I'm wrong, but that's his whole shtick, is just like publishing and reading. So he's supposed to be someone who has a high level of literacy, I would assume. He has a capacity to read, okay? He claims that a party cannot just be formed by popularity on social media, that just being popular on social media doesn't make you a communist. Okay, but he's the one who's focused on popularity. Because if he read our declaration, we make it clear that the challenge and the test of being a communist is proven by practice. That's what we said in our declaration, and it was the very premise of our justification for the reconstitution of the CPUSA in the first place. Read our declaration, and it's literally what we say. And by the way, before you can engage in practice in the capacity of a collective organization, you need to establish the organizational discipline of being able to bring together people who disagree with each other on a lot, ideologically and even theoretically, but all agree with each other as far as the practical purport of the organization. That is the first practical act of a communist organization, and all of them in America have failed that filter. The vicious cycle of sectarianism, just organizations purely formed around personalities, formed purely on the basis of ideology, yada, yada, yada. It's like they haven't even gotten to step one. We got to step one. We're not claiming that we have discovered a new synthesis of Marxism. We're not claiming that. We're not claiming there's a new synthesis of Marxism-Leninism. We are standing on the shoulders of Marx, Lenin, Engels, Stalin, Mao, and then under Mao there's Deng Xiaoping and Xi Jinping and so on, but you get the idea. We're standing on the shoulders of the people who came before us, who through practice have actually demonstrated the meaning of communism. We're not claiming to have synthesized Marxism-Leninism in a new way. We are awaiting that synthesis. We're looking forward to that synthesis, but that is a synthesis we can only justify after having actually affected history on a practical level, okay? So, put it this way, 2 days after our party is announced, which is really just a tool to organize people, to get things done, to make an impact on the real world, okay? Just the very means by which to do it in a collective and organizational capacity, we are being held to an insane standard. Because we have not already, accomplished the same things that, Lenin and Mao have, we're not communists. That's ridiculous. We just launched our party literally 2 days ago. It's absolutely, it's mind-boggling that someone who, presents themselves as some kind of, worldly intellectual who is so literate and understands Marxism so well, you would think they would be able to understand that before you can actually affect history as communists, you need to organize as communists in some capacity before you can do things. Otherwise, it's individualistic adventurism, okay? All we are doing by announcing and declaring the American Communist Party is that we have people with extensive ties with the U.S. labor movement, okay? We have people with extensive ties to the international communist movement, okay? And much, much more, okay? The people that we have united and incorporated are not just infrared followers. They're people with actual experience in actually at least understanding how to be in organizations and how to have a connection with things going on in the real world, okay? So I think that's the last bit of negativity I'd like to talk about before we actually get to the meat and potatoes. Look, I need to strongly emphasize something. I understand this party has generated a lot of enthusiasm and excitement, and that's not a problem. Although it really has surpassed our expectations, I'm not going to lie. We didn't think we would get this much attention. I'm not lying. We thought that only our existing communities would give this the most amount of attention. We didn't know that it would take all of America by storm, to the point where I don't know if this is my insanity. It's just the algorithm tailoring it to me, but it kind of seems like we drowned out the news of Biden resigning. Every single established political faction of politics in the United States came out and tried to attack us and destroy it. Nick Fuentes, all of the far-right neo-Nazis immediately started trembling when our video dropped. And they saw fit to attack us. The liberals, same thing. We don't care. We see you all as the same. We are the communists, and we're going to defend ourselves as such. Chancellor Zero. It took America by storm. I mean, so many people with shocked reactions. And the American Communist Party is not a social media platform. We don't care. We don't care what some random idiot thinks of us. We care about getting things done as an organization. We care about actually effectively being a communist party. We don't care about Joe Biden and we don't care about Trump. At least I don't. I don't know if I could speak for everyone, but at least I don't, okay? I don't. It's not news. There's nothing I can do to affect as an individual Joe Biden or Trump. There's nothing I could do. Collectively, once we get off the ground and set the precedent for a collective organization, there's a lot we could do in this country. There's a lot we can do to this country. So let me explain to you guys if there's anything else in need of being discussed or talked about. Let me explain to you guys how the onboarding process is going to work. The onboarding process is going to work that you form already an informal association, and the first thing is that you apply to be a chapter, okay? Now, once you apply to be a chapter, your chapter representative that you're going to have to appoint yourself is going to be vetted, okay? Every individual is going to be given a unique, Darg, please don't shoot me if I'm botching the terminology. They're going to be given a unique identity on the blockchain. It's not going to record what they do. It's just going to record their status in the party, whether you're a member or you're not. And every social media account that's aligned with the party is going to be cryptographically verified on a public ledger that this is ACP and this is part of ACP. Okay? We're going to start seeing the chapters spark up on the map this week. Now, this is the really interesting thing about ACP, and you're gonna find more information about this soon. But the really interesting thing about it is that, you know, it promotes decentralization, meaning we're going to have a minimum of rules. We're going to have a minimum of conditions of alignment that we're going to establish transparently, and a lot of it's going to be based in common sense. But it's actually going to be chapters that have the most power in this party. And this is something we carried over and learned from the experience of the CPUSA, where clubs, and the reason we're calling them chapters and not clubs is because we don't expect, I mean, even the CPUSA isn't big enough to justify the distinction yet. But eventually we're going to have to create more distinctions. But the organ of collective association is the chapter, okay? And in the CPUSA, it's clubs that actually show the most initiative to actually do things. But it's always the leadership that's either stopping them or tying their hands, and just there's no way a leadership can know what's going on the ground according to different local conditions. Additionally, there's people who have different ideas as far as what strategy should be pursued. And we are genuinely, this is what people don't understand about the American Communist Party, okay? It's not a MAGA Communist Party. It's not an infrared party. Our ideological the ideology that we officiate is just the precedent of Marxism-Leninism. So, for example, you can't join ACP if you reject Stalin's contribution to history. You can disagree with Stalin in some ways. You can disagree with Marx even in some ways. But you have to appreciate the specific material contribution to history that they made. Okay, you have to appreciate the unique synthesis of Marxism each of these heads represent. And that's something that's practical. It doesn't matter what you disagree. For example, you can say, I don't think Lenin said the right thing about religion. That's fine. You just have to appreciate Lenin's significance for history and the fact that that history is fundamental to the meaning of what communism is. Okay? So we're not enforcing ideological dogmatism on anyone. We're just enforcing a basic integration of the history of communism and Marxism-Leninism. Okay? Now, beyond that, we're letting 1,000 flowers bloom. Okay? Do what works, because what works will be demonstrated by example. If it works for you, it may work for others. So this is the kind of framework by which we're engaged. This is what we mean by decentralization. We want people to experiment, to have the breathing room to do things that work. But how do you balance that with a minimum of conditions of alignment, right? Well, that's what the technology is based on. Slava J, what's going on? That's what the technology is about. Now, let me be clear about something, right? That reminded me of something, because Slava made a tweet that I liked about the role of women in the party and so on and so on, and I want to talk about that. Now, there are no women in the founding plenary committee, which basically planned the original structure of the party in terms of leadership. Was that intentional? No, it wasn't intentional. It's just that this is how you can explain it descriptively however you want, but prescriptively speaking, no one was being excluded, all right? And we're not doing this nonsense identity politics where we're just like appointing people just because they're women. That's just really inappropriate. That being said, I want to clarify something. You know, myself and Jackson have made comments in the past being funny, and these just reflecting our personalities, okay? That some may find offensive, okay? For example, about women, and saying, oh, women are stupid, whatever. That is just some personality nonsense. It has nothing to do with a serious communist party. It has nothing to do with the integrity of a serious communist party. To be clear, and I'm only going to say this once, and it's going to be enshrined in the actual party constitution, which will be finalized before our in-person inauguration. There is no room for any kind of discrimination against women in the American Communist Party. As far as the party is concerned, women will not be treated any differently than men are. Just like every communist party in the world. Okay? Just like every communist party in the world. Zero tolerance for harassment, any kind of sexual harassment. This is a party that is open to women. Okay? And it's based in professionalism, just like a workplace. A workplace from like 2005. Because the ones today are a little crazy about it, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, that's a joke, but whatever. Anyway, look, so there's some concerns about that or whatever, and there's no, I mean, look, it's actually a real party. It's not just like a meme, okay? In a real party, no, we're not actually going to like have racism and, you know, misogyny or whatever in an actual fucking party. Okay? Excuse my French. That's just like jokes or whatever, like in private. It's not a place for a serious party. This is part of being an adult, by the way, in the real world. So I wanted to just make that clear to everyone. No, it's not strictly just a boys' club. Women are totally welcome in the party. Now, regarding our stance on culture war stuff, we have a common law in place. We're not going to formalize it. Our common law is going to say be normal. It's a normal, like don't be strange. Just be normal. We're not going out of our way to hunt people and harass them privately. Just be professional and be normal and have common sense. That's all we ask. And we're not formalizing it. Because that's the thing. We shouldn't have to formalize it. You understand? Be appropriate. Don't sexualize anything. Don't go out of your way to offend people's sensibilities. Just be normal. Just be a normal person, okay? We will hold you to the same standard as any sane professional environment. And nothing more. We're not hunting people down and, trying to dig into... Put it this way, we don't want to have to know or care about whatever eccentricities you happen to have. But you have to be normal. You have to be normal, okay? You want to cry discrimination because no furries? We don't care. We don't care. It's common law. It's a common law thing. And it's based in common sense. And if we don't have a common framework of common sense that's unspoken and is implicit, nothing can ever work, by the way. And culture just happens to be one of the things that we believe it's a matter of common law. That being said, there's not going to be any abuse that's allowed. No abuse of anyone for any reason who's in the party. No harassment of anyone. No, no bullying and so on and so on. But let's say you're not showering and someone say, "Hey, can you mind how you smell?" You don't have to smell good. I just don't want to smell you. That's common sense. That's not, We also kind of talked about this. If you're extremely overweight, people have the right to hold you to the standard of basically, you know what? Exercise, Not abuse you or bully you about it, but just encourage you and uplift you and, No, it's not that you can't be fat. You can be fat. It's just... I don't mean it in the harassment sense. I mean it more in the sense of, we don't believe in fat phobia. Let's say someone's fat, and then, someone's hey, I have some tips if you're interested in learning how to work out or something. Yeah. You should set an example as a communist, or what a communist should be, Have some discipline. Don't be a slob. That's all we're saying. Just don't be a slob, okay? Hold yourself to a good standard. We're not saying everybody's got to wear a suit. We're not saying that. Again, that's abnormal. It's abnormal to demand everyone have a strict dress code of wearing a suit. But there's a golden mean called common sense, which says, although you don't have to wear a suit, you can't look like a bum. When you're, just use your common sense. That's all we ask. Anyway, just take it seriously and treat it seriously. We're honestly not going to enforce. Put it this way, we're only going to enforce this common law culture stuff if it, is so ridiculous that it's we have to. We don't want to, okay? It's not in our interest to. So I want to be clear about that. Just be normal. You don't have to go out of your way to be like wearing suits and stuff. You just be normal, okay? Just literally just be normal. That's it. Yeah, just act like an adult, okay? Okay, so like I said, it's not a lot of people are saying, what happened to MAGA communism? And it's like, well, MAGA communism was a slogan, okay? Mecha Tanky was a slogan. It was a slogan that was necessary to culminate in something like this, as far as we were concerned. You know, before we were in an age of so much ideological confusion, okay? Now we needed these slogans to clear ideological confusion. Now that it's been cleared, we can just be a normal Marxist-Leninist party, in our estimation, in our view, okay? We're not repudiating anything in the past. It's just a new era in the progress, because we, again, infrared is a growing project. So was Midwestern Marx. So was Jackson's whole thing, the dive or whatever. All of these things are growing projects. They don't just end somewhere in time and all of their goals are completed, okay? Once we reach a certain level of attention, it's a new stage of practical activity. Once we reach a new level of making the impact on consciousness we sought out to, we're faced with a new context, okay? It's very, very simple.